All right, welcome in KSO Postgame Live. Mason Voth, Drew Galloway here with you as boy, not quite the show that we wanted to do tonight, or at least not in the spirit that we expected to be doing the show. But K-State did win. They just didn't do it in an expected way or the way people certainly would have preferred. They beat Tulsa tonight 84-83. They had it in the game on a 6-0 run over the last 46 seconds of the game. During that stretch and beyond it a little bit, K-State weathered Tulsa, finishing the game strong. Tulsa made 6 of their last 8 shots tonight. And it really wasn't a matter of teams shooting the ball well. Like, this was not some superhuman game from Tulsa like it was for Cal when they came back and made it close against K-State earlier this week. It was just K-State couldn't get a lot of stops of the regular variety at times, and K-State themselves couldn't make shots. And overall, just a weird game for K-State, the way it played out. It was the game that lacked the most rhythm that we've seen from K-State at any point this season. And to me, that's probably what dictated how this outcome ends up looking more than any of them. But if you're on the K-State side of things, you take the win. And I know there are going to be plenty of people that are ticked off about this and not happy, and certainly okay, because we're going to get into this nonsense. Um, like it was a bad game for Jerome Tang. Like this was in a it was going to be close. Like players have to play well. They didn't play great tonight, so it wasn't going to be a comfortable win at any point. But I think Jerome Tang made it a lot harder on himself and this team with some of the way things went down at times. He'll be getting ready to go and do his post-game press conference right now. Honestly, I'm kind of hoping that we hear some kind of revelation that there's an illness or something going around the team. We saw Mobi Kageruka wasn't able to go tonight, didn't participate in warmups or anything, and just the way guys looked and started. And K-State was a lot less willing to try to go fast and get this thing moving like we would expect from this team. So I'm hoping that there's something totally off about them, or that could explain this a little bit more than just, hey, team suck tonight. And uh, the positive of all this, some of you will appreciate this, some of you don't want to hear any of it, is no doubt in my mind, last year's team loses this game. So you have that going for you. This team, because of their mentality and attitude, were able to come through and find a way to win this one. And when you have a team that plays games like this, or especially in basketball, you're going to play this many of them. When you have a bad game as a one-off and it looks like this, and you survive it with a win, totally fine. And this goes back to what we just discussed on Saturday with K-State football. It's why people are mad at Chris Kleiman. It's not because he came in there and said, "Oh, we're not going to apologize for winning that game." Okay, nobody would have batted an eye if K-State was 9-1 after Saturday. And he said that because guess what? Over the course of a season in any sport, you're going to have some stinkers, and good teams win their stinkers. And K-State's problem on football is we saw at least 3 games already this season where you kind of already extended and cut off the leash that you had. And then the Baylor game on top of that, you could throw in and point to Chris Kleiman and his staff blew it. To this point in time, K-State's basketball team hadn't really played a clunker. I know some would point to what they did against Cal last week, and I would just tell you, again, weird game. Cal got ungodly hot. They were never actually going to win that game. K-State never once was threatened in losing that game because of the situation and everything else. So we'll get into all that tonight. A lot of mixed emotions, I'm sure, for everybody. But K-State winners 84-83, and they are 4-0 to start the season before they go to Kansas City on Thursday night and face their first real test of the year against Mississippi State.
Yeah, a lot of mixed emotions. I want to start off with, I came away from this game and the immediate aftermath, kind of thinking about Tulsa might be a little bit better than what we expected. And I kind of pointed to the American as wide open. I mean, Memphis has looked awful at times. UAB has got off to a rough start. Like there is a world where Tulsa could be the American champion, and I don't think that would surprise anybody. So this could be a sneaky, solid win down the stretch. But the other thing that I'm kind of like going towards, and what my angle kind of is basketball is a weird game. It's why I love basketball, because anything can happen in it, and even more than football. And I think that it's important for a team who doesn't necessarily know what their identity is yet to be able to win the game in different ways. And today, K-State was able to find a way to win in a different way than I think anybody expected. I mean, they won the game where they didn't shoot the ball well. They won a game where they had to deal with all kinds of foul trouble, and still found a way. And then, who would have ever thought that before the season started and watching K-State play through the first 5 games of the year, that K-State would win the game on the defensive end. Like, I mean, if they don't get a stop down the stretch, they don't win the game. And to go off on a 6-0 run to win the game over the last 48 seconds was extremely impressive. And that's something that this team last year wouldn't have done. It's not something that I think that this team would have done maybe even last week. So to be able to see them kind of grow up before our eyes and see them play a little bit of a clunker, but still find a way to win, it is something that I think can make you feel good about where things are. And, last live show after the Cal game, you asked me what I thought the K-State's non-conference record was going to be. And then I got booted off the show after I said that I thought that they'd lose to Mississippi State. And one of my reasons for potential loss to Mississippi State was because I thought that a Mississippi State game is going to look like this. And I didn't think that K-State would be able to handle it. They were able to handle it tonight. And it was PJ Haggerty having to be a superhero, because on offense, it was kind of lifeless for a little bit. But I think that you can kind of see and squint your way. And I think that this is a positive thing, because they found a way to win in a different way than anybody expected.
Yeah, not losing is a positive in these situations. And over the course of a basketball season, not losing is far more important than how you win games. And we're going to see that as things move forward. Tonight was not good for K-State. It highlighted some problems that they have, but I'm not going to overreact to this, because like, Tulsa's not a horrible team. Like you said, they'll probably be in the mix in the American. They've got some pieces. Obviously, we saw that tonight.
And how many games this year do you think that K-State will shoot 20% from three?
Yeah, not many. And that was one of the things that I was kind of surprised by tonight, was the shooting. Because, we talked about it earlier in the year, after one of these, that people were talking about, like, well, when this team cools off. And I said, I just think they have so many guys that can shoot it, that, like, that's not as big of a deal. The problem is that, like I said at the start of the show tonight, I didn't think K-State got into their normal flow on offense too many times tonight. It looked slower. You weren't getting some of the looks or shots for guys that you would have typically wanted. I mean, the evidence of that would be is that Nate Johnson only took 4 threes, only 8 shots in total. PJ Haggerty only took 2 threes. Now, one of the big differences is David Castillo didn't make everything he looked at tonight. He was 1 of 5 from deep. He smoked a layup that would have been nice to have. Almost blew the one that turned into the game winner. But, K-State came through, got the win. And that's what I would focus most on right here, is how K-State was able to pull it out. But, we can get into a myriad of things here. The first one that I'll say, and I'll just get this off the top, because this has nothing to do with the actual game. This is more of the mechanics of running a basketball program. I think, and I was thinking this in the first half, when you're looking, you see the American logo on the chest for Tulsa, and you go, look, the American's nothing special, but they're clearly one of the, once you get past the Power Five in basketball, so the P4 and football plus the Big East, like they're in that 2 to 3 conference range right there before you hit a hard fall off. And I just don't know, scheduling that game right now didn't make a ton of sense to me.
It was it
Ahead
was
of like you're 3 days ahead of going to Kansas City for that tournament and then to Indiana next week. Like this is definitely kind of a look ahead spot. And this team did this where I didn't like the scheduling mechanics in year one, and I know they didn't have as much say on it because a lot of stuff was already in place. But they should have found a way to have played a cheap like a bad team in a bye game at home when they came back from their Thanksgiving tournament before going on the road to play Butler, because I just think you have that layoff and then you're faced with that. Like it would have been nice to have something easy in there. I think K-State probably could have used something easy right here, especially if you value Cal as an actual power conference opponent, because one test before you really test yourself over the next week against Mississippi State and Indiana, and then whoever you play on Friday night in Kansas City. That's kind of enough for this little stretch here for K-State. So that's just one little scheduling bugaboo that I have that didn't pertain to the actual on-court stuff tonight, but just one of those things I go, this is a learning experience for Jerome Tang and his staff to build out a better schedule, which I think they've done a pretty good job of this year, but
I mean, it was more of a trap game because of, you came off the Cal game, you have the 2 games ahead, but I still think that it was just, I don't know. It was such a weird game that if you can find a way to win it, it's awesome because you're not always going to play well every night. But if K-State lost tonight, that's one where a lot of the concerns kind of grow about where you think of this season can go. And I mean, we all kind of said it. And apparently you and DY even had the same headline for your guys' stories of like, it is surviving. And sometimes all it takes in basketball is surviving. This is a game where if the season kind of plays out how we think it's going to and want it to go, it's kind of just a blip of like, okay, like it was a game where they didn't shoot the ball well. It was still at the beginning of the year. There are some legitimate concerns that I have, and one is one that I pointed out in the pick and preview. I talked a little bit about it when we've talked about the Tulsa game, period, is just the inability to guard in the half court at times without fouling, and specifically the bigs, it is a growing problem. Like Elias Rapik tonight plays 10 minutes because he wasn't very good and
he was no help.
And he was in foul trouble early and never got into a flow, so he couldn't get into the game. Kamari McGriff had 3 fouls and was dealing with foul trouble to begin the game. Doreen Buka had 3 fouls in 15 minutes. And then, it gets to the point because you don't have Moby that you have to play Taj Manning because you have nothing else in the front court. Like, it is a problem that has kind of occurred a little bit low key, but it's not even like the talent of the front court that concerns me the most. It is their ability to not stay on the court. It is lazy fouls. It's Doreen Buka swiping down when he's 7'2", and that's going to get called every single time because even if you get the ball, it just looks weird because he's so much taller than everybody else. And then even at times, PJ Haggerty has gotten kind of caught in this of, why are you doing this instead of this? And you're getting called for like a cheap foul. Like his 4th foul, you have to know that you have 3 fouls. You can't get caught in the air on something like that. And then, he gets the 4th foul and Tulsa goes on that run. But Tulsa is also just a team that is built to frustrate you. And again, it's like why I said that defending without fouling was one of my keys tonight, because Tulsa is one of the best teams in the nation and free throw rate. And K-State wasn't able to keep them off the free throw line. So that's something that needs to get fixed throughout the next couple of weeks, because once they start playing like the Mississippi States and either Nebraska or New Mexico or Indiana or Creighton, if they can't defend without fouling, it is going to be a major problem.
Yeah, you gotta figure out some way to go out there and get it done if you're K State in a better way. And those things were legitimate problems for K State tonight. They have been this season, and um, e- I let's talk about PJ Haggerty a little bit, because obviously he's going to be the key to this season. You bring him in, All American type player, so you need him to be your best player. Like, he needs to be the best player for K-State. And to this point in time, through 4 games, he's been the best scorer for K-State, but I don't think he's been the best player for them. He's starting games really slow. It's like a combination of being timid, but also like it lacks focus, it seems, or everything's a little just off. And tonight, I thought more than any of them, we saw that at times. I thought some of his ball handling looked weird. You're talking obviously about some of his situational awareness in the game, and we still haven't seen him step up and play a game where I go, "Yep, best player right there." And I think he's still going to. But as we get deeper into this, like, we kind of need to see it come out. And I don't know why it looks and feels as strange as it does at this point in time for PJ Haggerty with K State. And look, I mean, 29 points, 10 boards tonight. Like, it sounds crazy that I've got some gripe with him, but it's just, I can see how it's playing out. And I didn't really like how he played tonight. And it's something that is going to have to get figured out for K-State, because you can't get away when you're playing better teams than Tulsa. PJ Haggerty being a great scorer, he has to be a great player. And he was a great player at Memphis, and we've seen flashes of him being a great player this season already, but we haven't seen it extrapolated over the course of 40 minutes in a whole game.
We haven't, but it just again proves how great he was at Memphis and how great he can be when he can have 29, 10, and 3, and like it doesn't feel like he was the best. He was a great player tonight. Like, the bigger overarching thing here is that you can't have a game where Nate Johnson and Abdi Bashir go 7 of 20 and only combine for 17. Like, those two have to be better if they're going to move forward and beat the better teams. Like, Haggerty is going to give probably between 20 to 25 on an average night. On a night where you need him to score the ball more, he's going to get to 29 and even upwards of 40 at times, because he's such a natural scorer. But those two, I think, are the bigger overarching thing of why this game never really felt like K-State could put it away, because there were a couple times where Abdi Bashir and Nate Johnson both had good looks for maybe a kill shot to give K-State an extended lead, or Nate Johnson had a 3 to potentially tie it with around like a minute 30 to go and couldn't get it to go. So those two, I think, are the ones that need to step it up a little bit more and be a little bit more consistent, because at this point, what Haggerty is going to give you scoring the ball.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this and how this game played out, it's about figuring things out as a team and in your situation moving forward. It's still very early, and you kind of have to realize that and understand that. And I think for the most part, things are going to work out. I'm not overly concerned yet. People should realize this, that like, I'm I can kind of be the red ass of the media. I understand that. And I'm anything but that right now. Like, tonight was not good, but it also wasn't something to melt down about.
And Haggerty's still doing things that he's never done in his career. Like, he's 4 official games into his K-State career, and he had never had a double-digit rebounding game. Well, he did that tonight. He'd never had a double-digit assist game, and he did that in the first game. Like, there are things that he's doing that have been something that he just hasn't done before. And I want more, because I know that he can get to that 30 or 40 stretch or point mark pretty easily. but it's just kind of the holding him to such a high standard. Like he is the guy and needs to be the guy. And I think that that's why it comes across, and especially because he is just so naturally gifted at scoring the ball that it feels like he's not trying super hard.
Yeah, and that is definitely part of it. This whole team lacks a little bit of times where there's, I think, direction, or they're doing certain things with a purpose, and there's a little bit of a and they try something that doesn't work out. I see the comment. We will talk about C.J. Jones here in a second because it was not good tonight, and that's one of the things that falls at Jerome Tang's feet. But shout outs belong to Kamara McGriff for making free throws, even if it's wasting good chunks of our lives with how long it takes him to get them off. As long as they're going in, it's fine. But
9
I
rebounds
guarantee you,
too.
the second the refs hit you with the and violation for taking too much time, I am going to rip into you. And so you got to make sure that it's being done. So far, so good if you're Kamari McGriff.
Well, they don't play in Ames this year, and Hilton would be the place to call it out.
And then David Castillo, not as good shooting the ball tonight, but you can still see just how different of a player he is this season and how things have gone. And certainly there at the end, he's able to right place, right time, make the basket, and kind of redeem himself after, like I said, smoking the layup earlier. The bad, though, tonight, legitimate bad, like can't defend how bad they were. Abdi Bashir never got in a flow, and he took a lot of shots, and I get this is his game, and he's going to make a lot that look like this, but it was a little too chucky for me tonight, the shots that he got up. Now, some of it he was put in tough situations, so you kind of have to take them at certain times, and you have to look like the bad guy, but he's got to be able to help himself out a little bit. And like, he only played 28 minutes tonight, and it wasn't because of foul trouble. And that's kind of a concern, is that in a game that's close, Abdi Bashir should play more than what he did this evening. Then you can look around, and we can get to the guys that are going to be under the microscope all season because they are going to play minutes, and they're probably going to give you more bad than good. Doreen Buka and C.J. Jones. Tough nights for those guys, specifically C.J. Jones, who his 14 minutes on the floor, I could have sworn he played 25 tonight. That's how noticeable it was when he was out there, because it was atrocious.
It was really bad, and especially when he had the ball, it was a major concern. One play that stands out actually was the play that you talked about where Castillo missed the layup. C.J. Jones didn't really do him any favors on the pass to go up for the layup. So I think that kind of played a factor into it. But when you're not playing a ton as a guard and you're extremely noticeable because things aren't going well, that's not a good sign. And I mean, that's just something that needs to be fixed going forward, because they need another guard that can play right now. And that's where, like, you need to hope and pray that Andre Kostic gets a lot better on the defensive end, because that needs to be who is in these situations.
And we saw a moment tonight where I think Jerome Tang, it was very brief, made the decision, hey, you know what? Maybe he's not ready, but we need him out there. It was like it was their lineup that we've talked about, where it's your four best options to maximize your potential, and then whichever big you randomly want to grab to throw out there. We saw it for a flash, but it needs to get to the point where Kostic can play more, because he's in this group right now where he needs to be playing more than 10 minutes, and K-State is going to fail if he can't play more than 10 minutes in a game.
Yeah, there was also just flashes where he was better defensively. I mean, it happened right before he shot the three to, I think it was to take the lead at that point. He got the steal on Tulsa's best player, went down, hit the three, and that was kind of like oh, okay. So you hope that he keeps making strides, because from game to game, his defensive improvement has gotten has gotten just a lot better. He is probably the most improved defender through 4 games. There are still times where I find myself shaking my head at like Elias Rapik, especially off the ball defensively. But it's still coming around. I think that all the European players are still kind of getting used to the American game and the American college game specifically. So it will come, but they need those guys to really have their first moments of like, I'm here and I'm here to stay, either in Kansas City or when they go to Bloomington. Like that would be very nice to see a flash from one of the three of them.
Yeah. I think what we're seeing is the Europeans just overall are having to learn a little bit more of the flow of the college game. And then uh Elias Rapiak tonight, I think, is one of those where, in terms of how you defend at the professional level, you're allowed to be a little bit more physical, and it's just so blatantly overly physical at times, and not based in moving and being in correct position always. That really kind of showed through
It,
and was a problem for him. And he didn't deserve to play more than 10 minutes tonight.
no,
I think there's still a world in which Kostic maybe should have been able to, let the peacock fly a little bit.
and then offensively, I think that Rapik is still just trying to find a role because he's kind of in a weird position because the guards around him when he's on the floor, because obviously he's a starter, are just so good and can fill it up that he doesn't really need to score much. So he doesn't really touch the ball a whole lot. So I think that he's still just kind of trying to find a flow in the offense too. And this kind of goes back to what we've talked about with Kostic, is that that's also where you want Kostic to keep taking the next step and be a starter. Because I think that the game kind of gets bogged down a little bit when you have Rapik and McGriff on the floor at the same time. And where it really got bogged down was when Taj Vanning and Doreen Buka were on the floor at the same time. K-State becomes a lot easier to guard.
Yeah, and I think that's always been a blind spot of Jerome Tang, is too many times year after year he is, I don't know if it's lacking awareness or if he feels like, hey, I need to do this right now. I would say you never have to do it, but he puts too many of the guys that are, when they're out there individually, not going to give you much offensive upside. And then when you put them on the floor together, he he has too many lineups over the course of his time at K-State. You go, oh, it's 4 offensive zeros and one guy that's just fed to the wolves having to play with that out there. Like, that makes it really tough, and you're not going to accomplish anything with those lineups out there. So you got to be better about that. We're going to take a brief, like 10-second break, reset, get Fan in here. He's ready to go. He was in Bramlage tonight. We'll get his insight on this topic, and we'll talk a little bit more about the Cats and some of the ways that Jerome Tang did or did not manage the game tonight in K-State's 84-83 victory over the Golden Hurricane of Tulsa. All right, we are back, ready to go. Everybody's set, looking good. 3 guys ready to talk basketball. Fan, we've already, set the stage a little bit for this. Where do you stand on what you saw tonight between K-State and Tulsa?
Well, I listened to some of you guys on the way home, so I think you mentioned some good things. I thought your point about PJ Haggerty maybe struggling to get in the groove of the game. I would say the second half he was a star. Like I would my only pushback would be we won the game because of him in the second half. Because he had 4 points at halftime. I think he officially ended up with 31. Somehow one of the tip-ins during the post game, it's not on the official stats tracker yet, but he ended up with 31 and 10, which is the first time that's happened at K-State since Michael Beasley. So that's pretty good. and you saw what happened when we took him out of the game, and even Jerome Tang mentioned in the post game that was probably a bad sub. He rolled the dice. He thought, well, we'll probably just lose one possession, and you end up losing 2 or 3, and they go on the run to take the lead. So that you have that storyline, and you're going to have a game where you don't make shots, K-State. So we saw that happen. They made 21% from 3, and you have to find a way to win. But to me, all that boils down to second half defense has got to be better. They score 49, 1.28 points per possession. They make 45% from 3, 56% from 2. And really, it kind of felt like K-State, I thought, had a couple times where they had control of the game, got up 7 or 8. And that final one, they were up 62-70 or 70-62 with 7:25 left, and got outscored 21-10 over about 6 minutes of time. They gave up 21 points over 6 minutes of time. And at one point, Tulsa had made 6 baskets in a row. Part of that was when P.J. Haggerty was off the floor. So we saw the second half defensive issues against Cal. We saw it again tonight. To me, that's the one issue, making it too easy for teams to get shots. Drew mentioned Tulsa. You knew they were going to come in and attack. Ended up with 29 free throw attempts. This was one of those games that's the perfect picture of why free throw rate is more important than free throw percentage. K-State shoots 90.5%. Tulsa shoots 72.4%, but Tulsa scores 2 more points from the free throw line, and that was almost the difference in the game, in my opinion. If K-State doesn't force those 2 turnovers in the last minute, they lose this game, and we're all singing a different tune right now. So that changes the dynamic. Now they still got to back it up and go at least in my opinion 1 and 2 in these next 3 games for me to feel pretty good. If they go 2 and 1, I'd feel really good. But at least you're not 3 and 1 right now. You're 4-0. And who knows what this Tulsa team is? It's so hard to gauge teams now early in the season because everybody's got a brand new roster with all these new guys. It's also got to make it hard for these coaches to scout. And the other thing is Tulsa has a built-in advantage. Their coach played P.J. Haggerty 30 minutes a game just 2 seasons ago. So he did have a pretty good idea of how P.J. Haggerty played. And I think that played into a little bit of why he got off to a slow start. I thought he really did some things to bother him. And I thought P.J. Haggerty was trying too hard to be a point guard, like trying all these – get into the lane, dish it to Kamari McGriff. Just go be you and go attack the basket and get to the free throw line. You can shoot free throws in the first half too, PJ. You don't have to wait till the second. So yeah, there's my rant.
There was some serious – I don't even really know that it was overpassing, but it was just forced passes at times tonight. And then some forced shots, like we saw a couple of the bigs get the ball just totally out of position down low and decide, well, I got it down here. I got to go up with it, which, look, most of the time, like, I'm for that philosophy in basketball. If you got it down there, just go up with it. But when you're directly underneath the glass, like if you go straight up, your head is going to hit the backboard. You maybe don't try taking that shot, or like too many out of position type things for them. But yeah, the focus was a little different. And I think your point about like, because PJ Haggerty is such a different animal to have to figure out how to stop in a basketball game, because you don't see many guys in college basketball play the way that he does. Like now in the NBA, basically every other game you're going to play, you're going to play a guard that is going to make a living kind of foul hunting and getting to the line. Like, it's a very Trae Young-esque style game from PJ Haggerty. Like he's a little bit of a foul baiter there, and then he uses some of his other game to set up his teammates. And you can look at what this team did tonight, and you could kind of see like Tulsa made it tough on them to get what they wanted. But I also thought some of this was K-State not getting the game sped up as much as what they would like. And I don't think that was anything Tulsa did. I just think it was K-State either lacking the ability to do it tonight, or maybe it was a directive to not do it tonight, which is why, once we get the full Jerome Tang post-game comments, I told Drew, like, I really am kind of hoping that he says, hey, we got a bunch of guys sick on the team right now, or something along those lines, because I was a little disappointed in how that operated this evening.
It was the first time all season that they haven't dictated the pace. And there was times where I think that they were trying to use their defense to really impact the pace of the game when they went to that half court trap and the 3/4 court pressure and the full court pressure. But they just couldn't really get into a flow and a rhythm. And that is kind of one of the things that when you look at the course of like NCAA tournament type style, it kind of scares you about teams that want to go fast and want to run, because when they can't get out and run, sometimes it looks a little bit clunky and it looks a little bit disjointed. And it's the same thing on the opposite equation of like when teams want to go really slow, if they find a matchup where a team really wants to get out and run, where they can get kind of outpaced and really uncomfortable. And it's why you want that happy medium, but we're not going to get that of like that 73, 74 possessions a game instead of like sometimes getting into the 80s, which is what we've seen so far at times this year. But there are going to be games where K-State's going to have to win like this in the Big 12. And I'm looking at games like probably like an Iowa State game would look similar to this. Or, they probably aren't as good defensively as Iowa State, that they can control the pace of the game. But like, in Arizona, it would be a game like this that they'd have to win. A game against KU could be a little bit of a clunker. I think that it's good to see a team where we only see what they do well through the first 4 games is get out and run, get out and run, get out and run. We want to outscore you. To have the challenge of let's go make a stop and win a basketball game. Like it's something that was refreshing to see. It was nice to just see the resilience, because again, this team last year would not have won this game, last year's team. And I think that a lot of that is because they didn't have somebody that could go and win them a game like this, like PJ Haggerty could. But I think that some of it was just that they weren't good enough to do it. So it's like I said when Fan posted the final stats, like there was a lot of red on the advanced stats tonight. There was a lot of red in the shooting stats tonight, especially from 3. But they still found a way to win, and I think that that's something that needs to be celebrated a little bit more. And as important as free throw rate is, it was nice to see that K-State could make free throws at a higher clip tonight than they've been showing. Because if they had shot free throws the way that they had the first 4 games or the first 3 games, they'd probably lose tonight.
Well, also the turnover numbers were low. Now, you didn't force a lot on the other end, but again, all season I'm not going to care if it's low or high for K-State as long as it's similar to what their opponent does. That's really the winning mark here. Now, let's talk about some of the decisions that Jerome Tang made tonight on the side of coaching. This is part of the CJ Jones conversation. He was terrible tonight. Not good. Like noticeably bad basically every time he was in there. I think they were putting him on the floor at times to play defense. He really didn't do that. And then he ends up with the ball at the end of the first half, which is just a disaster because his 3 comes nowhere close to going in. And then for some reason he's in at other points. He, gets dinged on the review that the ball was last out on him because he couldn't grab a rebound, which, not just a him problem. That's a everybody on this team problem. And that's one of the big reasons why Tulsa was in this thing tonight, because people will probably be surprised to learn that K-State won second chance points tonight, 17-15, but you're the better team. You're the Big 12 team against the AAC school. You needed to limit it better against Tulsa. And there's also the argument to be had that if K-State, because most of those second chance points came in the first half for Tulsa, if you shut that down, your lead is bigger at halftime. And, so much of this game is if you go into the half after the first 20 minutes and the power of belief is kind of taken away from the opponent, then you're going to have an easier time than what K-State had in the second half. So The CJ minutes were not very good. The decision to take PJ Haggerty out of the game with 4:07 on the clock, thinking, hey, we're going to get him a breather. And then it was under the 2-minute mark when he went back into the game, I believe. Just a clear misread of the situation for Jerome Tang. This is one of those where I would point to it and say, that's almost, it's not really an analytical play, but it's like a coaching analytics thing where it's like, I'm really going to be smart here in how I do this. And I think it was just a total misread on the situation because the game was far too close. And like fans said, then we saw how this team couldn't do anything without him on the floor. And so you need him to survive. And you should have left him out there because there's no guarantee, especially with the way that K-State likes to play, that you're going to get that stoppage. And the other thing on top of that is because of the foul trouble that K-State was in, most of them were guys that had to be on the floor for you. There's a pretty good chance that you're going to be trying to avoid picking up fouls out there. So you're not going to be the one that stops the clock in all likelihood. And K-State had a tougher time getting a whistle tonight than Tulsa did. So I think, you hopefully learn from it if you're Jerome Tang, but he messed up there by taking PJ Haggerty out and trying to sneak a few seconds of rest time for him.
He also just could have called a timeout by himself. Like that's the more kind of thing that leaves me scratching my head.
Yeah, I kind of get it though. The game's close. You only have 2 of them left.
But you could see that the game was kind of slipping. You could have called a timeout and put your best player back in.
Yeah, I think that's the key. I honestly think he took him out because he got his 4th foul and he was scared that he would get his 5th foul quicker than he thought. And then I think Drew, I think you have the right call there. Like once you give up 2 baskets, the next time you have the ball in offense, you got to call timeout and get him back in the game. I don't care. You don't roll the dice and wait for that dead ball. You get your best player back on the floor before they go up 3. Maybe after they go up 1, you call timeout right away. I mean, and then you get him back on the floor. And I think that's where the mistake was made. I would agree, Mason. Also, I just don't take him out at all. I mean, you're not going to win the game if he's not on the floor for 2 minutes. Compared to you're not going to win the game if he's fouling out over the next minute as well. So I get that logic, but PJ Haggerty's got to be on the floor. He's the reason you were winning this game. And you got that 8-point lead with 7 minutes left in the game. And then he goes off the floor and they go on a 6-0 run and take the lead. So it's pretty clear that if he's not on the floor, even if he's not a great defender, he's still a smart college basketball player and a good defender. And even with 4 fouls, he's probably going to be better overall than anyone else you're going to put out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get some of the comments tonight. Get those knocked out. Last year's team wouldn't have pulled that off. Still tons of room to improve. This is what will happen when we have an off-night shooting. I think for now that's what happens when you have an off-night shooting. I think this team, as they get more time together, you have so many guys that are having to adjust to a different setting in a lot of different ways. This team is going to be able to go out there and win games when they shoot poorly this season. And again, I don't think there's going to be many games where they do shoot as poorly as they did tonight. But it'll get better. Now, like if you go out and you shoot like that against New Mexico on Friday night, you're probably losing that game because I think New Mexico is probably a little better than Tulsa. Certainly if you do it against Mississippi State and Indiana, you got to hope that they're just as bad as you. And that would be something to kind of keep in mind here is that the way this game played out, K-State wasn't bad in the sense that, the way that I would say this is if K-State played like this against Indiana, I don't think it's like they gave Indiana a ton of opportunities to just like pull away from them unless Indiana shot the ball really well. Like this was a game that no matter who K-State played tonight, unless it was, Mississippi Valley State or something, I think this was going to be a close game, like just based off the tone and the flow of it. But yeah, K-State, they found a way to get it done tonight. And that really is the most important thing here. Because like I said, to start the show, football wasted their chances to get those, moments of grace from us against Oklahoma State. Basketball's played one stinky game and they scored 84 points and they won, and they're 4-0, and they're going to go to Kansas City and they're going to win both games in Kansas City. So
they played a stinky game against a pretty good team and still won.
Yeah, I was saying to people, complaining and immediately go, oh, this team's not making the tournament. They're not going to be good, blah, blah, blah. Bruce lost to Tulsa in back-to-back years with teams that went to the Elite Eight and won the Big 12. And those Tulsa teams, I went and looked it up, worse in KenPom at the time that K-State played them than this Tulsa team tonight. So, and I think those K-State teams were probably better in KenPom than this K-State team right now. And also, this K-State team has only played, 2.5 weeks of basketball together, 3, I guess, now. Those teams that lost to Tulsa for K-State, those were guys going on year 3 and 4 of playing together. So, Drew, you said it, but like basketball is one of those games where it can be unpredictable, more so than football. Like if you took Alabama at their peak and played Oklahoma on Saturday, there's a 0.001% chance that Alabama would lose that game. Like they could play the worst games of their life and they still probably win by 2 touchdowns. Like that's where basketball is different because we know that team really down the dumps can beat anybody. So, I would not freak out about this one. Question from Ron. Do you think the rotation was wonky due to the 3-game week and trying to keep minutes down for PJ, Nate, and Abdi? It's an interesting theory because you look at it and, I'm not going to go off the top of my head, but like for all those guys, this feels like probably the least amount of minutes they've played in a game that's mattered this season.
I think that, I don't know if that factored in. I think PJ ended up playing 32 and Nate 35. So those guys kind of got what you would expect. Kamara, even at 25 minutes, is what he needs to play. Like I think Kamara needs to be playing that many minutes, especially if you get nothing from Rapiak. 10 minutes from him, and he was bad in those 10 minutes. Ended up with a 0.44 offensive rating. CJ, by the way, had a 0.64 offensive rating. So it speaks, that stat does highlight how bad he played as well. And so you get that situation. But for whatever reason, Tang, we played 10 guys in the first 4 to 5 minutes of the game, and he's been doing that consistently. So that rotation of getting guys in quickly, Buka is usually one of the first guys off the bench, which is a little bit odd to me, but I think that's to save McGriff a little bit, trying to keep his minutes in check. But with the guards, I think sometimes they're just kind of playing defensive roulette of who they can find that's going to go out and defend somebody, especially when another team gets going. We saw that against Cal in the second half, and I think we saw that a little bit in this game in the second half as Tulsa started driving the ball and we couldn't stay in front of people. And then number 14 started banging threes in our face. And you got to find a way to get stops. And, for a stretch there, like I said, that lasts from the 7:25 mark to about the 1:25 mark, we could not get stops. And that's why Tulsa took the lead. And they've got to get that part of the game figured out. And that's going to be mainly with who the guards are, because we played 4 guards quite a bit tonight. And trying to figure out who the best 4 guards to defend people are is going to be the challenge for this coaching staff.
Yeah, Miles Barnstable, what a night for him. If he had eligibility left, he'd be on the transfer portal market again next year, probably upgrading a little bit. My brother went and saw him in person against Oral Roberts last week and was talking. He told me about him the next morning. He was like, "They got a guy named Miles Barnstable." He's like, he had a heck of a game. And sure enough, we saw that tonight for him.
He's probably somebody that's on the all Mason Voth team.
Yeah, and hey, look, I did 1 year. Most people when they play a sport, they wear the same number all the way through. I was all over the place. I did wear 14 at one point in my sporting career, but I could never stick with a number. I was always like, I'll wear this one. We get this one. Is it encouraging that they scored 84 points and shot poorly?
Yes.
It absolutely is. I will let our resident fan and the analytical person here explain that, his standing on it. But I imagine numbers wise, you would agree 84, good number when you shoot poorly.
Well, it was 1.11 points per possession, which is not bad offense. Like that's way more than they averaged last year, and much more efficient than they were last year. And you'll take that. And what the funny thing was, Drew was talking about this game being kind of wonky and grinderish, and they still had 75 possessions in the game, and they still scored 26 points on fast breaks and outscored Tulsa 26-10 in transition. So, like, if that's your bad game pace-wise and in transition, and that's your grinder slow-down game, I mean, we lost to Tulsa, and they scored 46 points once and 54 points once in 2 back-to-back seasons. Now that's ugly basketball. That's wonky, gross basketball. This was not a pretty game, but it wasn't that level of wonky, gross 45 possession basketball, first to 50 wins. I would better take first to 80 wins, which is kind of what this team is going to be. And I'll take 1.11 points per possession, honestly. That's where I keep saying that the defensive tweaks are really kind of what I'm taking out of these last 2 games in the second half over even a poor shooting night offensively tonight.
Yeah, it's just insane to look back at those losses to Tulsa under Bruce and see how it ended up.
Even the game under Bruce that K-State won was disgusting basketball.
Yeah, we had to score the last 5 points to win by 2.
Yeah, it just those TUL teams, Tulsa and Tulane, and get them out of here. Quit seeing them. TCAS says, how about Clint Stewart on color tonight? Dude was on point. Look, fan didn't get to hear. Clint was great on there. It was instantly, I think, an upgrade to really a lot of what you'll get throughout the Big 12 on ESPN Plus games. Like, that's a guy that he could legitimately do plus games when, ESPN is dictating who's getting to go out there and call games. I thought he was really good tonight. And this is nothing against Stan. This is just a personal preference thing that I have always had. I want my analysts to have their background be in that specific thing. So I would like for K-State more times than not be able to use somebody that played or coached basketball at K-State for basketball. Stan's great for football. Stan played football at K-State. Like, that's totally fine. And he does a good job. But I want more Clint Stewart. And I just want that out there. It's same thing. I don't like Rex Hudler doing Royals games because he never played for the Royals. The only time that he ever was a part of this thing was when he came over after he and Fiziak got canned by the Angels because they were bad. And that was how he became, ingrained with the Royals. Or Kirk Herbstreit, like, fine, yeah, do college games. You played at Ohio State, great for you. You didn't play in the NFL, so I don't need you calling Thursday Night Football. I would like an NFL mind in there because, well, yes, you can understand the game and everything. Like, there are going to be moments that come up. I need that person involved to know the insides and outs of playing NFL football. Like, in that moment, how is it handled in an NFL situation? So it's just my little thing on Clint Stewart, but I thought he was great tonight. Very good. And definitely the best of the guys filling in when Stan is not able to do those games that K-State's been able to roll out there.
Yeah, Clint was awesome. He has to be a proud coach tonight watching David Castillo get the game winner.
Yeah, that'd be a good one for him.
Somebody's got to find the broadcast camera of Clint's reaction to the game-winning shot. Make it happen, K-State.
Scott says they are going to get roasted in Big 12 competition.
We are so far away from that you can't say that.
And again, like we've talked about throughout most of the show this evening, it's basketball. It's one game. So much can change in how this plays out. I mean, go look through any of the good teams that K-State has ever had, and you're going to be able to find seasons or games inside of those seasons where you go, oh, why was that game close? Like we talked about the Radford game in 2023, and I'm going to continue to bring it up. K-State screwed around before Christmas break against Radford and could have lost that.
Oh, that wasn't even the game from that year I was going to bring up.
Well, Wichita State was terrible, and you only won 55-50. You got blown out by Butler, who wasn't
also
good.
Terrible.
LSU, it took some good fortune at the end to win that game. Nevada, you went to overtime with, who, fine, but whatever. We talked about Cal last week because, it was Cal that was here again. The 2019 team, Tulsa, already hit on it, discussed that.
Texas A&M. 2019 got blown out by a really bad A&M team.
Some of us saw that coming, and when we tried asking Bruce Weber about that before that game, Bruce just poo-pooed us and acted like it was no big deal. So, that was an enjoyable loss to take in. The 2018 team, we talked about it. Tulsa lost to them, Elite Eight, whatever. And you probably are going, well, Bruce Weber sucks, blah, 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 whatever. All right, hey, let's take a look because I don't know if you guys have short-term memory or something. Frank Martin had a mighty share of stinkers in non-conference play at K-State. He had more conference stinkers than Jerome Tang or Bruce Weber ever really had, given the teams that he had and what he was facing. But you can go and look at the Elite Eight team in 2010. Do you realize that they played a regular season game December 1st against Fort Hays State and won 83-76? That's not anything to write home about with how they played. It happens. Teams are going to play close games in a game like basketball where there's a lot of variety to what's going to take place. And if you win, that's all that matters. Because at the end of the year, if K-State wins every game and it looks ugly in the box score and analytically, but they've won them all or they've won 80% of them, they're going to be in the NCAA tournament. Like, the way K-State played tonight is essentially the punchline to the joke about, what do you call somebody that finished last in their class at med school? Doctor. Well, if K-State goes out and they shoot 20% from three and they win every game by 1 point against every team they play this year, you know what you're going to call them at the end of the season? Number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Doesn't matter how they get it done. It's just stacking those wins that matters. K-State found a way to do it tonight. And there really shouldn't be any serious judgment passed on this team until probably we get into conference play or if for some reason losses do start to pile up. So if things get out of control and you lose both in Kansas City, you lose to Indiana, you would lose to Creighton in that scenario too, probably. And maybe, you slip to like South Dakota or Seton Hall. Then we'll have conversations before that. But as long as this team's winning, nothing to freak out about.
No, I'm right there with you. Thursday night will tell a lot. It's going to be the best team that K-State has played to that point. They're going to need to play really well. They're going to be focused for all 40 minutes. I saw a comment saying that the rebounding was too much for Tulsa. It really got a lot better in the second half. Tulsa only had 4 second chance points in the second, or 4 offensive rebounds and 2 second chance points in the second half. The biggest concern through 4 games still is that they haven't played a full 40 minutes of defense. They have shown flashes of being a pretty good defensive team and defensive rebounding team, but it's for like 2 or 3 minute spurts. Or like against Cal, it was for the first 25 minutes. They played really well, defended really well, rebounded pretty well, and then it all fell apart in the last 15 minutes. They need to show that for a full game, and that is probably what you want going forward. And, Thursday night, who wants to make a pick right now?
The K-State's winning. We're done. We know that's happening. You're not going to get me to change my opinion and act like, this team's bad or anything like that. They're taking care of business.
Fan, what are your early thoughts about Thursday?
Yeah, I like K-State's chances. I don't think they're going to shoot 20% again from three. According to Ken Palm, it's basically a coin flip game. 1 point advantage. Ken Palm has a 1 point advantage for Mississippi State right now, but I think it's basically a coin flip game. I like our chances. I think you're going to see some guys stepping up. I think you'll see better play from Nate Johnson and Abdi Bashir. I think I'm just even with a game where he probably didn't play great for the first 15 minutes. In my opinion, when you have a PJ Haggerty on the floor and you have a guy that can control the game and get to the lane and get to the rim and make plays like he can, you're going to have a shot in almost every game. You're not going to get blown out very often. And I think that's going to be the key. I think having him and I think Nate Johnson playing a better game with Kamari McGriff, and then hopefully Abdi Bashir hitting shots. Abdi Bashir and David Castillo going 1 for 5 from three. Not the greatest night that he's been living up to, but that's going to happen. And then that's going to swing back to where the percentages go. I think this is going to be a 3-point a team that shoots more like 40% from three for the season. You're going to have 20% games, but you're going to have 50% games too. I think Thursday night's going to look a little bit more like that.
Anybody off the top of your head, you guys or the chat, because you're so worried and K-State sucks. What did Mississippi State do after they got housed by Iowa State at the Pentagon? Anybody know?
They didn't look great.
They destroyed Southeastern Louisiana, didn't they?
Yeah, by a whole 7 points, and we're up by 5 at halftime. The number 242 team in Ken Palm on the road at the number 36 team, who is again, K-State's the only one that ever has these stinkers. The 75-68. So
Indiana also looked terrible against Incarnate Word yesterday. So it
I saw
happens.
somebody mentioned that. Indiana won 69-61 at home against Incarnate Word. Yeah.
I'm also saying this right now and getting out in front of this because I know that there's going to be a million threads about it. Download Peacock. You need it for Thursday and Friday, and then you're going to need it for conference play. So just go ahead, buy it now.
Hey, the Big 12 ones, you will legitimately need Peacock. Last year, it said Peacock. It was a lie. You just needed to be able to find the NBC Sports Now Fast channel and put it up there. I'm hoping that the production value is a little better this year because it was not good for when Wichita State was there last year and whatever that clown show was. But
you really are a sicko for finding Wichita State games.
No, that was not really because of that. It was more so it was a late tip. Nothing was going on. And it said on Peacock. I was like, well, I would like to see the Peacock presentation. It wasn't Peacock.
Was it better than Flow Sports?
No, it wasn't. The picture was much clearer.
Okay.
And the broadcasters were better. Like they helicoptered Jake Eisenberg in to do that game.
There you go.
But they just used the cameras and the little score bug that they would use in-house at T-Mobile Center. So it wasn't that special or great.
I'm going to say that it's going to be better because at least for the UCLA Arizona game, it looked really, really good on Peacock.
Well, and look, I imagine you've got a couple of high major teams there. It's actually a tournament again. You might invest a little bit and say, hey, we got 4 games in 2 days. Let's send a decent crew to go call games for us. So we'll see what it looks like when that comes about. One other thing that we'll hit on here, Garrett said that the officials called a lot of ticky-tack fouls on us. We shot the 3 horribly as well. Also a lot of bad turnovers. Glad we got the win. The officiating tonight, look, I tweeted about it. They're going to get exposed with the coaches challenge thing on just how many times they make calls because, look like that's what it was. Let's move on. Let's not question it because I really wasn't paying attention or I didn't do things right. Well, we saw that tonight with the one that Tang was able to get overturned. One area where Jerome Tang is going to have to learn is how to use that coach's challenge because I think there were moments in the Cal game and then this one where you could use it earlier and he needs to be a little more aggressive with it. But obviously, fortunate he had it when he did use it properly, and was able to benefit K-State. And then the other area where it's still a problem, and the coach's challenge is going to amplify it even more, is refs have to call fouls when the movement and the bump dictates what happens to the ball, because that's what happened on the CJ Jones out of bounds call tonight. He got fouled. If the guy wasn't coming through him and over his shoulder and into him.
The same thing happened in the women's game yesterday afternoon. Like, the ball went out of bounds on K-State because there was a foul.
Yeah, it's a problem. So yeah, we're gonna figure this thing out with the officials, but it was not a great night for them, and we already are used to it. It's going to continue to not be great because they are the scum of the earth, college basketball refs.
But at least Jeffrey Anderson did his high knees.
Yeah, that was great for everybody out there. Where's Doug Sermons when you need him? A guy that has actual control of the game, never misses a call. So yeah, needed those guys. Not high knees being your best official on the floor. That's a dangerous game to play. But again, K-State survived bad shooting, bad play by themselves, bad coaching, bad decisions by players on the floor, and everything else, and still came out with the win. So yeah, don't apologize for it if you're K-State, but also don't just accept it and go, woo, woo, we're all good. K-State's not all good, but they are going to be able to. Yes, Jason, yes, I agree. Kip Kissinger does do a nice job as well. Kip is my guy in the officiating game. But K-State's going to get better. And judging a team off of game 4 of the college basketball season or a one-off game, you're going to be miserable all season if you're doing that. They could turn out to still not be very good. And like I said after the Cal game, I'm not buying in to this program and this staff overall, but the 2025-2026 team, I like the players, I like the pieces, and I think they're going to be good. I don't know what it's going to look like beyond this year, and certainly I don't know what it's going to look like this year, but I'm pretty optimistic about it, and I think K-State is going to be good. So we'll see. A better marker of what they do will be how they play on Thursday against Mississippi State rather than tonight against Tulsa or down the road when Bowling Green comes to town or some of those other bye games. It's how you stack up against the teams further towards the top, as long as you're still finding ways to beat the lower tier teams like Tulsa. So we'll get out of here and I'll give a final thought to each of you guys, and then we'll shut it down. So Drew, give us your final thought, and then you're free to go to bed since it's close to midnight for you. At no time, not close to midnight for us in the Midwest.
Still goes down to the left-hand column. You still won. You still found a way to win. You don't apologize for winning a game like this, because every team goes through this at some point during a basketball season. There's still been a lot more fun and a lot more good than bad through 4 games, which is why, I push back a little bit about the people that are immediately saying that they're not going to make the tournament because they only beat Tulsa by 1.
Yeah, you get 2 really good games from 2 players, PJ Haggerty and Kamari McGriff, and then everybody else is kind of okay and has moments of frustration. Again, it takes a team to win games. When you have multiple guys have kind of off nights or mediocre nights, you put yourself in position to get upset by a team that's good enough to upset you. This Tulsa is not a great team, but this is not some bye game against Bellarmine either. Like, this is a much better team than that. So they had capable players. They've got a decent coach. I think this will be his best team he's had at Tulsa. He did a pretty good job at Louisiana Tech after he replaced Mike White when he left for Florida. So I think he's a solid coach and not inept by any means. So Drew's right. You take the win, you move on, and then you see what the test of the next 3 games is going to bring. What does this? You're going to find out what this team is about. And even after that, that doesn't definitively say we're a great team or a bad team, no matter what happens in those 3 games. But the next 3 games are going to be pretty telling about what K-State basketball really is.
Okay, I know that we said one thought, but now I had something click into my mind that I just want one word answer for Fan, because he was at the Tulsa game, he was at the Cal game, because this was something I was talking about with some people after the game. One word: is Cal better than or is Tulsa better than Cal?
Maybe.
Wow, that's a great answer by him.
No, I would say
you, Drew.
My first answer would be no, not quite, but pretty close.
I think that they're very similar.
I do want to hit on this real quick because it's been Austin versus the world in the chat. He's down on the team. Some people just want to enjoy the win. He said this team will struggle against better competition in the league. Like I said before, if you can't play defense, it's going to be a long season. Defense wins championships. Yeah, you have to play at least a lick of it to like not lose too many times, because you can't lose too many times in college basketball. But I think people also are going to have to be uncomfortable this year, because it's not been a philosophy really ever for K-State to be the team that, hey, we're just going to try to outscore you. And when teams play like that, you're going to, A, give up a lot of points, and B, margins are going to be closer more times than not, because the process that you're going through to get there is not based in, okay, hey, we got to stop, let's go score. We got to stop, let's go score. It's a, hey, we know we're not going to get many stops. We're just hoping that we get more buckets than you do. And so it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be easy. I would disagree right now that this team will struggle against better competition in the league. I think this team is going to be one of the better teams in the Big 12 this year. Now, look, are they going to struggle against Houston and Arizona and maybe Texas Tech? Yeah, but those 3 teams are going to be wagons this season in the Big 12. So, everybody's going to struggle with them. But I don't think this team's going to struggle with Iowa State. I think they're going to be right there with them. I don't think this team's going to struggle with Kansas. I think they're going to be right there with them. And you can go down the list like Cincinnati. I'm not scared of them. So, I think people are just going to have to change it up a little bit, because this team is going to be a lot more NBA-ish in the way that things are going to work out for them this season, and kind of the philosophy of it. Like you can look around the NBA and it's like, good teams play bad teams close all of the time, but it's because the offense is just at some level, and what separates you is the good team typically has better offensive players than you do. And K-State's going to have better offensive players than a lot of teams they play this season. So it's going to be a weird, uncomfortable year. It's going to make it really fun at times, but it is going to give you moments where you feel like K-State's not going to be able to get it done against better competition, and just realize that 84-83 against Tulsa might very well be the same score that they're going to play and beat Iowa State with this year, or a lot of teams. So that would be my take on it. All right, everybody's ready to get out of here. They got real things to do tomorrow. So we will do that. We'll be back again Thursday night after K-State and Mississippi State. It will be mighty late. That game tips off at supposedly 8:30 from T-Mobile Center. It could be a little bit later than that, depending on how long Nebraska, New Mexico goes before that, but we'll be live after that. Probably will be live Friday night as well after that game. I'll be traveling that afternoon, evening, out to Salt Lake City for the football game this weekend. So we'll see if anything gets weird there. But plan on Postgame Live for both of those this week. And then Drew and I will have shows Tuesday and Wednesday. And we'll figure it out. We'll have a football preview show in there with DY at some point. I won't over flood you with content, but we'll have quite a bit going on. And then all the written stuff over at KSO. So we're out of here. For Drew Galloway, KSU fan, I'm Mason Vogt. Thanks for watching, listening to K-State Online. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.